62 kilometers away. The train will cover this distance in 2 hours. That's approximately 580 miles an hour. The trains will travel in tunnels just under the surface of the sea, suspended from a network of floating rigs. So now we can get seasick on a train. Number 5. Burj Al Arab. The world's first 7-star hotel, this sail-like building sits on its own man-made island. It has 202 rooms, ranging in price from $2,000 to $24,000 a night. Number 6. Dynamic Tower. 420 meters tall with 80 stories, all formed around a central column which allows each floor to rotate independently of the others. Occupants will be able to choose the speed and direction of rotation, and an entire 360-degree rotation will take 90 minutes. Don't like the view from your hotel room? Change it! Number 7. Dubai Creek Tower. Currently under construction, the Dubai Creek Tower's estimated height is 1,300 meters. The building will include 10 viewing platforms, some of which will rotate, offices, residences, restaurants and sky gardens inspired by the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Number 8. Man-made islands. Whether it's the palm trees, the world map or the newly built Seahorse Island, maybe one of the most iconic things in Dubai are its man-made islands. These icons don't come cheap though. The palm tree islands alone cost over $12 billion to make. Number 9. Dubai Frame. In order to showcase everything we've mentioned, Dubai built the Dubai Frame. Resembling a picture frame, this 150-meter tall building is designed so that whilst looking through one side, you can see modern-day Dubai, while from the other side, the older, more traditional Dubai can be seen. Dubai's elaborate way of not losing track of its roots. Would you like to visit Dubai? Let us know in the comments.
Technology and a playground for creating the tallest, most luxurious skyscrapers that we've ever seen. The ultra-modern metropolis already has an endless list and will scrape the sky at exactly 1 kilometer above the ground. That's 3,280 feet. Dubai saw what Saudi Arabia had in store and, not wanting to fall to second place, put together plans of yet another megastructure that would trump it. With a projected cost of around 3.67 billion AED, close to $1 billion US, the Dubai Creek Tower will soon break all kinds of records. How tall are we talking exactly? Well, that's yet to be disclosed. At the moment, the development company Emaar Properties is keeping the exact height of the tower under wraps. That said, it's estimated to reach around 1,300 meters, while styled after an Arabic minaret and resembling a blossoming lily flower. Construction on the eccentric monolith began back in October of 2016 and is scheduled to be finished at some stage in 2020, opening to the public in 2021. It's touted to have up to 10 viewing platforms, some of which will rotate, along with luxury residences, offices, restaurants, and sky gardens inspired by the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The builders aren't just slapping it in the middle of downtown, though. They're actually creating an entirely new neighborhood called Dubai Creek Harbor, of which the tower will be the illustrious centerpiece. The area is promoted to being able to accommodate close to 470,000 people when finished. Have you ever thought that skyscrapers are just a tad too boring, too repetitive? Well, the futuristic minds of Dubai have one heck of a mega project in store to change that. Get ready, because in 2020 we will see the world's first for $1.2 billion US. Construction hasn't been easy, though. It's been a long journey for the Dynamic Tower Hotel, also known as the Da Vinci Tower, with planning starting way back in 2008. The highlight of this new-aged building is the rotating floors, which take about 90 minutes to complete a 360-degree circle. You'll need between $4 million and $40 million to buy a floor or an apartment when they go to sale, depending on how high in the building they sit. Best of all, residents will be able to control the rotation speed and direction of their individual luxury apartment. So if you want to catch the sunrise, just rotate your apartment 90 degrees to the left. Or feel like making your acrophobic guests dizzy? Just turn the speed up to max. Aside from this never-before-seen feature, the tower will be the world's first prefabricated skyscraper. In other words, every individual rotating piece or every floor can be built in a factory and then shipped to the construction site to be attached to the central cylinder. This means that construction can be up to 30% quicker than regular skyscrapers. Could this be the future of architecture and construction? In case you haven't noticed, Dubai clearly has a love for any and all things futuristic. That's why they've gone ahead and developed another amazing mega project, the so-called Museum of the Future. With a projected cost of 499 million AED, or about 109 million USD, the innovative Dubai landmark will be one of the most expensive.
Good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon, everyone joining us at this webinar. I'm assuming that we have people joining us from different parts of Nigeria, so it's good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mojibade, and I will be moderating this session. I will be helping to transition from one activity to another. But we thank you very specially for making time to be here today, this Sunday afternoon. It's a virtual event. So what usually happens is people are muted, people don't know who is who. What we would like to do before we wait for, as we're waiting for other people to join us, is to just have a quick networking session in the chat room. So the interesting thing about technology is that we can connect. So whether you're joining from a different part of the world and people are here, we can connect with ourselves. So please, if you do not mind, let me ask that we introduce ourselves, where you're joining from, and the name of your business. So let's do that in the comment section very quickly for a few minutes, and then we can just network very quickly. So just drop your name so I could start. Say, my name is Mojibade Shisanya. I'm joining from Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm a compare, I'm a business, because I'm the moderator, I have the opportunity to say it out loud. But would like to ask everyone joining to do that in the chat room. I haven't gotten anybody drop anything, but we must network. We must network and engage before we officially start this webinar series. But would like to welcome everyone. Yay, I see Professor Justice Eze. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that you have chosen to spend your Sunday evening with us today at this webinar. This webinar is very critical, and I know that post-COVID, a lot of questions, a lot of businesses have gone through so many things. Let me just put it that way. And this is definitely a good time talk about, making profit in uncertainties. I mean, we know how it's a very volatile environment that we live in. So it's very, very critical that we have conversations like this. And so what the PLLI has done is to organize webinars that would help us. Hello, I see Unoma Grant, COO Pelon Memorial Hospital, Lekki, Lagos. Thank you for joining us. We have a public servant from Abakaliki. Wow, okay, that's Professor Justice. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We appreciate that you have chosen time to be here today, and I promise you it will be worth your time. It will certainly be worth your time. We have someone special who will be speaking to us, and we have a very special speaker today. I won't say much. I will do her introduction very quickly, but that was where we get to that portion in this event. So thank you for joining us. We want you to take away distractions. If you have decided to be here, then it must be worth your time. So we don't want you to miss anything, because we have a lineup of interesting things for you. I'm seeing more people that haven't introduced themselves. I will start to call people out by myself. I'll just call you out and say, I haven't seen your, people are coming now. Only Mrs. Salami from Egbeda, Lagos. Thank you for joining us. We are super delighted to have you. I mean, we curated this specially for everyone. So we're very happy that you're here. We're happy that you have logged on early. We'll wait a few more seconds or maybe 1 more minute to have other people join us. Maybe for network issues, they aren't able to join us. But it's been a great time up until this moment. This is the fourth in the first segment of our webinar series. So we've had 3 other webinars. The first one was addressing rebooting your startup. Again, so we have different arms of the PLLI, and then this has been talking about enterprise development, right? So we had the first webinar was talking about rebooting your startup, where we had Dr. Biodun Adedipe speak to us. We then had another one from employee to partner, which was focusing on nurturing and retaining great employees. We had one of our very own, Pastor Tunji Iyola, take that session, and it was very phenomenal. Right after that, we had another session talking about optimizing depth for new businesses, which was focusing on leveraging depth for exponential growth. We had Mrs. Toyin Sunny, founder and chief executive officer of the Emerging Africa Group. And today is a good Sunday And we are looking at making profit in uncertainty. Just like I was saying, no one saw COVID coming. No one could have predicted it. It came and it came with, and then, we started to talk about unprecedented times, which, COVID brought, especially to businesses. Even as individuals, there were lots of changes that came, but especially to businesses, COVID hit businesses in different ways, good and bad. Some people picked up, some people weren't able to pick up. But today we'll be talking about making profit in uncertainty. It's a very critical topic, especially for business owners, right? I'm looking forward to that. And I'm particularly, looking forward to listening to our speaker. What we also do is to bring people who are examples of these topics, people who are thought leaders, who are distinguished personalities in their fields, and of course, someone who is making profit in midst of uncertainty. She's going to share her story and just take us through, the journey and how to remain profitable regardless of the volatile environment that we find ourselves. So we have Ama Watts joining us from Lekki, Lagos. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we promise you that it will be worth it this Sunday afternoon before we get on with the new week. Again, my name is Mojibade Shosoya, and I'm delighted to be here as your compare and moderator for this virtual event. Please, let's focus. And as we move on today, I will be introducing Peter Eze, who will be speaking to us about PLLI and the Spark course. Again, because it's a virtual event and we can't give him a round of applause, can I ask that we please give him a virtual round of applause in the chat room? Let's welcome Peter Eze, who will be speaking to us about PLLI, what the Pistis Leadership Life and Leadership Institute is about, and then he would also tell us about the Spark course. So I'm going to hand over now to Peter Eze. Hi, Peter Eze. Over to you now.
Hello, Mojibade. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, and I want to appreciate everyone who has joined this webinar series. Thank you so much. All right, I will just briefly talk to us about the institute, the PLLI. PLLI is an institute that is positioning to be one of Africa's leading hybrid learning institutions. It's basically an executive education school or institute, offering forward-thinking open enrollment courses, specialized executive education programs, and short modular courses, anchored on 4 broad schools of matter of excellence. The School of Enterprise Development, we have the School of Leadership Development, we have the School of Faith Ministries, and we have the School of Government and Politics. So those are the 4 schools that the Institute PLLI currently run. So the webinar series that's going on and the one you're experiencing today is an initiative of the School of Enterprise Development. Now, the School of Enterprise Development will be launching its flagship course. It has 3 course pillars. The first one is the Spark course. The Spark course is designed for to spark your enterprise intentions into a registered business and get your business on the road. And the Spark course is targeted at aspiring entrepreneurs, startup, and fledgling business owners in their first 7 years of operation. The goal here is to build or run a properly set up and well-structured startup business. We are at the end of a Spark course. The goal is to properly set up your startup and the one that already exists, to structure them properly for sustenance, for sustainability, and for something that lives beyond the owner. The second pillar is called the Traction course. The Traction course is designed for gaining momentum with your business, and it's targeted at young entrepreneurs as well as MSMEs between their 8th and 12th years of operations. The goal of Traction is to grow revenue, market share, branch network, and to go public, as well as building a formidable corporate governance and sustainable culture. That's for Traction course. The last layer of the School of Enterprise Development, the last course, which is the highest, is called the Stabilize course. It's designed to enable entrepreneurs build and position their businesses for the long run. It's targeted at large corporates, national and the multinationals, which have operated for over 15 years. And the goal there is to transform from a successful local business into a global competitive organization located, listed on reputable global capital markets, right? This September, the last weekend in September, I think that should be Saturday, 24th September 2022. PLLI will be the Spark course. It's a 10-weekend course, 10 Saturdays. It's going to be a blended program, meaning that you can register to attend physically in class, or you can register to join online live as it's happening. Like I said, the Spark course is targeted at aspiring entrepreneurs and people in paid employment who are confused about how to go about starting their dreams. It's also targeted at startup business owners who have run for 7 years, but are still struggling with running a properly set up and well-structured business. Finally, it's targeted at students who are currently on, whether it's summer break or break as a result of strike, and who wish to acquire entrepreneurial skill. The Spark course has been well put together. The curation of this course, the curriculum and the topic has taken about 15 months. We've had consultants sit down and design this course to offer what is not regular across board. For example, we have what we call the community learning approach, where you have more than one faculty take each topic, meaning that if one person's teaching style doesn't cut it for you, someone else will. The other unique feature of our business school is that when you attend, we have a plethora of consultants who are going to help you. Remember, we're talking about how to set up a well-structured, or how to properly structure your existing business. So we have consultants who will also work with you to help you come up with those templates, those manuals, as the case may be. And finally, for those who are interested, we are also enlisting organizations that can also open their doors for you to go in and see these things as they are being used, or they are best. So it's designed to be very practical, and we have selected one of the best brains in business: entrepreneurs, founders, authors, thought leaders. The facilitator for this evening's webinar is actually one of our faculty at the School of Enterprise Development. We have picked people who have done it, built businesses, who are running structures that are working, to come and teach. So they are not coming there to teach textbooks. So when you come to Spark course, you might not be hearing a lot of textbook English. You will be hearing from Nigerians and Africans who have, against all odds, built businesses that you and I know. When you drive through VI, when you pass through Barbich Road, you will see Pilon Memorial Hospital. It's not assumption, it's real. The hospital still exists, it's functioning. So you will have someone like Dr. Ngozi Onya come to teach you about certain things she has done in her business that has worked. So we are using this opportunity to prepare you. By September 1st, the portal will be open. We've worked with the founding institution, which is founding body, which is the Elevation Church, to underwrite a lot of the cost of this course, to bring it to the level that most people can afford. And it's just going to go at 150,000 naira. You will not believe that for 10 Saturdays, with all of the people that we've gathered together and everything that will go into it, it's just going to be at 150,000. Now, I'm at this because the price might likely also go up. So please watch out, keep checking plli.org, and ensure that 1st of September, you are among the first. And we have something very special for I think the first 13 people register for the course. So please look out and watch the Spark School of Enterprise Development. Thank you very much. Thank you, Muji. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Eze. So you've just heard from Mr. Peter Eze, who is the director at our PLLI. Thank you so much. You were so passionate about it. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again. I reckon that a few more people joined us, and I would like to recognize them because they dropped their details in the chat room. So we have Ifoma Agbo from Palin Memorial Hospital, Lekki, Lagos. Thank you for joining us. We also have Kelechi Ohadoma from Ikotun. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate this and we don't take it for granted that you're here spending your Sunday afternoon and evening with us. All right, so we're going to go straight into listening to our speaker for today. I mean, we already heard a bit about her and I will read her profile just before I bring her up. We have our speaker today, Dr. Ngozi Onya. She is a 1982 medical graduate of the University of Ibadan, a fellow of the West African College of Physicians in Pediatrics, and a travel health physician. She's an alumna of the Lagos Business School, EMBA 11. She became a medical entrepreneur after 28 years of medical practice in both the public and private health sectors in Nigeria. Her 10-year stint from 2000 to 2010 as the company medical advisor of Nigerian Breweries, a blue chip company, was her most notable role before the establishment of her own practice in 2010, Pelon Memorial Hospital, PMH. Now, PMH is a boutique multi-specialty hospital that aims to provide health services of the highest quality in one place. It was established with a vision to redefine healthcare in Nigeria. PMH has 4 branches in Lagos and 1 in Delta State. The first and flagship of the group is located at the Highbrow, Victoria Island area of Lagos, Nigeria. The second branch, located at Ikeja, pivoted to become a government-approved private COVID treatment center in June 2020 and remains in the forefront of the private healthcare response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pelon Memorial Hospital provides specific and supportive treatment of COVID-19 vaccinations, and COVID testing that's in collaboration with Lagos State Ministry of Health. Pelon was established in memory of Dr. Onya's third and last child, Patricia Eloze Onya Pelon, who was born with a rare congenital syndrome, CHARGE syndrome, in May 1994. After 9 difficult years that included 5 major surgeries, Patricia passed on in November 2003 as a complication of one of her 3rd surgeries that had performed 8 years prior. May her soul continue to rest in peace. Amen. Ngozi, our speaker, is a member of the Elevation Church and the advisory board of the Pistis Foundation. She sits on the board of several organizations, including Leadway Health Insurance Company, Farm Access Nigeria, Society for Quality Health in Nigeria, MedSAF, Children Arise Foundation, Boys to Men Foundation, and the Nigerian Society of Travel Medicine. She is a member of several organizations, including the Guild of Medical Directors, Pediatric Association of Nigeria. She chairs the audit committee, actually, and the Nigerian Society of Travel Medicine. She's a mother of 2 adult children and a grandmother. She likes to walk, travel, and listen to music. She is very passionate about her work. Such an honor and an impressive profile, to read such an impressive profile. We are delighted to have you here, ma'am. But just before I bring her up, you know, I also like to share relatable stories, because when Mr. Peter Eze was talking, he was saying that we will, for the Spark course, we'll be listening to practical stories, not textbook stories. We're going to be listening to practical stories of people who have transformed their businesses. Today, we're listening to a woman who transformed Pelon Memorial Hospital from near bankruptcy into a profit-making venture, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And you know, my first encounter with Pelon Memorial Hospital, the one by Bar Beach on Amadu Bello, was when my friend was going to have a baby, and that was my first time there. I walked into the hospital and I was impressed. I mean, this is not a paid ad. I was impressed. The customer service, the neatness, the odor. You know, sometimes when you walk into hospital, you're like, why does this place smell like a hospital? But it didn't have that smell. It was very, you know, everybody, customer service was on point. They were clean every second. It was just good. I was comfortable being there with my friend to just check on her because she was having a baby, I think, the next day. But it's such an honor to have a woman of substance, a passionate woman, a woman that has done it. And we'll be teaching us today how to, you know, make profit in uncertain times. I mean, she's a testament to that. So she'll be teaching us from her wealth of knowledge and experience. Now, with a virtual round of applause, let's make welcome Dr. Ngozi Onya, our speaker for today. A round of applause, please. Just make her feel I'm not going to allow her to speak until I see a lot of ginger in the chat room. So I want people to just say, welcome, Ma, thank you for being here. Such an honor, thank you. I want some energy in the chat room before I hand over to our speaker for today, whom we have brought from our busy schedule to be here. We are honored to have you here. I want some energy. I'm not feeling the virtual applause yet. Exactly. Thank you. I'm seeing people say thank you and welcome. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. And now I will be handing over to our speaker. Over to you, Ma. Dr. Ngozi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mudibade. I hope everyone can hear me very well.
Loud and clear. Yeah.
And it's a pleasure to be finally presenting this. I was supposed to have done this last weekend, but a certain event prevented me from doing so. And today I have the pleasure of doing so. I'm trying to see if I can find my slides to share. I hope I will not show myself to be technologically challenged, as most members of my generation are, and I will try hard to find it. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing the energy coming from the chat room. Thank you so much. But just to mention again that we would have a chance to ask questions right after her presentation. So if during the presentation, or even if now you already have a question, please note it down, and then we would have the floor open where you can drop in your comments, your questions for Dr. Ngozi right after this session. Thank you. We'll wait for the presentation to come up, but just note that you can ask your questions after her presentation. If you have one during, please note it. If you already have it, note it. We'll take all the questions right after. I think she has a presentation now. So over to you now, ma'am.
Okay, so can you all see my presentation now?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, doctor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm glad that quite a few of the employees of Pelon on this webinar. So if I tell any lies, on Monday they will look at me and say, and we thought she was the better person. The second thing I will say is that I'm happy about the background that Peter Eze gave about the Spark program. So it's not anything to do with the textbook. I'm just sharing. Not too long ago, a young man who I just remember to invite just before this meeting started, and I hope he joins, a young doctor who very early in his career realized he wasn't going to practice medicine and went into furniture making. He called me about 2 weeks ago to ask for me to share my experience about how I scaled up my business. And by the time I finished speaking to him, he said, "Oh, Dr. Onya, okay, God just simply chose to favor you after many years of hard work, because there was nothing I could say that was a big secret of something I did right or I did wrong that resulted in what happened." He said, and I think summarized the story I'm going to tell now, that God chose to favor me after several years of hard work. And he reminded me, he said, "I remember that in 2020, you were going to buy furniture from me, in January of 2020, you were going to buy furniture from me and you were going to pay 3 times." That you called me and said, "Soji, I'm going to buy furniture from you. By the way, the total cost of that furniture was 900 and something thousand. And I told him I will pay 3 times. And of course, he accepted. So that was a good reminder of how much can change in the space of 2 years. So it was 2020 January, we had that conversation. And the conversation we had today, that I alluded to, was held about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Okay, so this is the outline of the presentation. I'm going to start by saying making profit in uncertainty is what happened to us. I don't know that we did anything in particular with a view to making profits in uncertainty. But one thing we certainly know how to do in Pelon is to do business in uncertainty, is being uncertain from the very beginning of the business. And I'll start by this quote, and I hope everybody will pay attention. Please read it, but I will also read it out. It says, "Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all, acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence, so W.H. Murray calls it providence, I call it God, moves through. All sorts of things occur to help one that will never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events, issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed will have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. My story is going to be a story of a whole stream of events that issued from the decision that raised in our favor, the favor of Pelon, all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance. So as I speak, I'm not a very religious person. I'm a Christian, but I'm not a very religious person. And I try hard not to put my religious faith in people's faces. But it is fundamentally who I am. So I will start by, sorry, why is it not moving? Okay, I will start by giving a background to myself. So let me start by saying that my hero, as is for most ladies, was my dad, who was a doctor, who ran a private hospital, the first in my hometown, from 1972 until 1996, when he closed it down. And then he passed on in 2015. I must also say that I went to medical school in the University of Ibadan, because you see, these are all the background to starting Pelon, and then maybe what eventually appeared to be making profits in uncertain conditions. I went to med school in the University of Ibadan, and I was a committed member of the Ibadan Varsity Christian Union. And when we left university, the brethren will call us and lay hands on us and sent us out as co-laborers with Christ in the healing field of medicine, in God's healing field. For me, medicine has never been just a profession. It's always been my vocation. Never been tempted to become a pastor or anything more, just serving God through practicing medicine. Before I went to med school, I went to Queen's College. I had an inspiring principal, Mrs. Coker. For those of us who were in Queen's College at the same time as me or before me, you will remember Mrs. Coker. For those who came in after us, Efunjoke House is named after her, and I think her legacy lived on. She was an independent woman. She was strong. She had strong principles that she drilled into us. And then, of course, there was Patricia, my third daughter, my third child, and last child that was mentioned. A lot of the character traits I have today came from mothering Patricia. A friend of mine once came to the house and watched me doing one of the many things we had to do during Patricia's lifetime. She was probably choking, as she often did, and we needed to bring out a mucus extractor to suction her trachea. And everybody in my house knew how to do that. Even her brother, who was 7, and her sister, who was 9 at the time, knew how to do that. And she looked at me and she said to me, Ngozi, isn't God amazing? Because by nature, I'm a problem solver. I hate to see problems. When there's a problem, I must find a solution to it. So that's an innate trait I have. And then she looked at me and she said, Ngozi, isn't God amazing? He gives you, Patricia, a problem you cannot solve. So with Patricia, I learned to live with the problem and to just keep going and doing what I needed to do. I must also give some credit to the fact that I'm an alumna of the Lagos Business School, as has been said earlier. So before I ventured into Pelon in 2010, I already had an executive MBA. And so I had an idea of how to run a sustainable business from the things I had learned. And I tried to put them into practice ab initio. So in 2010, I left Nigerian breweries after 10 great years. I must admit, I jumped before I was pushed. Life was getting tough in Nigerian breweries, so I left. And with my severance pay and a bit of support from friends and family, I started a business. So it was a business like Modi described earlier as a struggling business. We were returning losses every year from 2010. I think in 2013, we may have turned a profit 2 years later, but that was when we made the transition from being an outpatient hospital clinic to an inpatient hospital. So we reinvested the little profit we made, and we even got more capital. And after that, it was consistently making losses every year. But we still did everything we needed to do. We paid our taxes that we could pay. We owed on what we will owe on, but we carried them on our books as debts. We didn't deny or pretend we didn't have them, or cook the books, or to cook them out of the books. We carried them on our books as debts. It was challenging. For the first 2 years, I had to do locums, St. Nicholas, Roding, Chevron, to be able to earn money to pay the staff who worked in Pilon. So just to give a background. And then after a lot of things done and staying the course and being there for several years, in 2018, we moved to Ahmadu Bello Way from Musa Yar'Adua, where we started. In 2017, we had decided, just before we moved to Ahmadu Bello, we decided to expand to the mainland because a lot of good ideas will come when you're running a business. And people said, oh, why don't you open a branch on the mainland? And so, against the advice of my chief operating officer, who was very much against the idea of branches, multiple locations, I opened the Ikeja branch. And we struggled for 3 years. And the Ikeja branch was a hospital, was a going concern. The owner of the hospital had relocated to Abuja soon after she opened the hospital. And so, yeah, it was a going concern. It may not have been profitable for her. I don't know that it was totally a non-profitable business, but it was a going concern. And so she said she was at the point where she was thinking to herself after 19 years, do I just close this place down and convert it into accommodation, right? Or what do I do? And then I reached out to her to say I wanted to let the hospital. So we had left the hospital in 2017, but we struggled and it never really took off. We didn't have enough money to make it look like the VI branch. Even getting the VI branch to look the way it looked was already an uphill task. Then to try and get the Ikeja branch to look better. So it struggled. In my opinion, it started the marketing VI branch. We started getting a lot of negative feedback because of the Ikeja branch. And so in March, 6th of March, 2020, we had a board meeting. So like I said, because I had an MBA, from the first day we opened the shop in Pelham, we already had a governing board. We had a board from the beginning. And we tried to have a minimum of 3, sometimes 4 board meetings in a year. So we had a board meeting in March of 2020, probably our last in-person board meeting, but yeah, definitely our last in-person board meeting, where we agreed that we will shut Ikeja down. It wasn't doing well. But, and I will say something and allude to it later. The advice was, so return the building to the owner. And I said, no, I can't do that. She had a business, a going concern there. I shut it down to establish a business there. I'm not going to return her building to her after 3 years and say, sorry, no, thank you, it doesn't work for me anymore. I said, luckily, it doesn't cost us too much. We will maintain the building and use it as accommodation for our doctors and our healthcare workers. So that was the agreement. And then on the 24th, so I'd like you to remember all these stories. On the 24th, okay, before the 24th of March, so we heard about the pandemic and the first case in Nigeria in February. And so sometime we've tried to run a very, very flat organizational structure, not very hierarchical, where we all will often meet somewhere on the first floor, and we'll have town hall meetings and everybody can express their opinions. So as this pandemic was coming, and we were seeing reactions all over the world and reactions from colleagues in Nigeria, some who are on this Zoom call now, there was a lot of fear about this unknown enemy. Of course, at the back of everybody's mind was the Ebola pandemic and poor Dr. Adadevo, who lost her life trying to do the right thing. So understandably, a lot of healthcare workers were not very enthused at the fact of this impending or approaching pandemic. So we held a town hall meeting, and I said to everybody, I'm the leader of the group, I'm trying very hard not to say I all the time because a lot of credit goes to the strong team around me. So I said to everybody, you know, we will treat the COVID, don't you? And most people said, yes, we know. And I said, I don't know a lot about it. I said, but if we as healthcare workers don't treat COVID, who will treat COVID? Should they go to church? Should they go to Babalawo? Or who will treat them? I said, I promise you one thing. I will do everything in my power to protect you. And I will lead you from the front. But we're in God's hands. Then we read from the Bible, the story of Gideon. And I asked people who were afraid to opt out. And 3 people opted out. I'm glad to say one of them came back recently in the last 1 or 2 months. They opted out because they were concerned. And we thought to ourselves, in fact, first of all, 2 people, and then 1 person opted out later. So they thought, we all thought this pandemic was going to be a 6-week, maybe 2-month pandemic, like Ebola. So I said, after the pandemic, come back to work. Your job will be waiting for you. And then on the 24th of March, I got a phone call, and I want us to remember this story as I give this background, from a doctor in one of the better known and better resourced and successful hospitals in Victoria Island, asking me if I was willing to admit a patient onto a ventilator. In 2015, we had set up a 2-bedded ICU. So while it had been fairly quiet, it was fairly well resourced. And one of the partners in Payload is an intensive care physician. So I said to him, but you have ventilators. So why are you asking me, why can't you take this patient onto your own ventilator? And he said to me very sadly that all his colleagues, the other healthcare workers in the hospital, had literally literally threatened to resign if he admitted the patient because she had COVID. So I said to him,
can we please mute ourselves? Please mute yourself, please.
And so I said,
all right, we apologize for that. Okay.
That's fine. And so I said to him, what makes you think my own staff will not resign if I admit a COVID patient? I was just being difficult because I knew we were going to treat patients. And then he said to me, well, I just thought to try. He said, Dr. Onya, I've never regretted relocating to Nigeria because it's one of the brain games. He said, this is the first time I'm regretting in my life. He says, because everywhere else in the world, healthcare workers are running towards patients and we are running away from patients. And then I said to him, give the son my number. And he gave the son my number. I said, we will treat the patients. And there was a lot of struggle. There was struggle from government because this was the time when we were not quite sure if private hospitals could treat or not treat. There was all kinds of things. At a point, somebody called me and said to me, I hear you are accepting Mrs. So and so into your hospital. He says the government will shut you down because the government frowns at private hospitals. in the spirit of transparency, I had kept the people in government, supervising ministry, in the know. From the beginning, I got this phone call, what do I do? Send to Yaba, I sent to Yaba. The family got to Yaba and said they will not stay there. I'd rather take my mother home and let her die home than put her in that place. Then I said, okay, in that case, bring back to me. So people who mattered were in the know of the going ons. It was a very difficult situation for everybody. And so he brought his mother back to us. And so somebody, again, who is sort of like in the government, calls and says, you're not allowed to admit blah, blah. And I said, listen, I'm admitting this patient because it's the right thing to do. I swore to an oath 38 years ago to save lives. And I'm going to do all I can to save this life. This lady had been to 8 different hospitals where she had been rejected. As soon as they found out she had COVID. And then she finally came to us. And we put her on the ventilator. And as God will have it, throughout the period, this was she came to us on the 13th day of her illness. We tested her 3 times for COVID, and the 3 times she was negative. Now we know that after a while, people become negative, but they still live with the adverse effects of the COVID on their lungs, which is what was happening with her. So we admitted her. Indeed, I said to the person who was saying that, the government will close it down. I said, but I hear you know the family, and that a member of that family had visited your home. And I said to him, imagine if you caught COVID from that member of the family and you are ill and you come to me to Pelon because you know we have a ventilator. And I said to you, government will shut me down, I won't treat you. And he said to me, you are doing the right thing, you are brave, go ahead, do what you have to do. Just say you were treating a patient with lung failure, not a COVID patient. And anyway, so while this lady was on admission on a ventilator, remember March 6th, we took a decision to shut down Ikeja. So this was a good opportunity. Nobody was going to hospital, either in Ikeja or in VI or anywhere. Everybody stayed home during the pandemic as much as they could. So we put out a notice saying that for strategic reasons, we had from the 1st of April, Pelon Ikeja will be shut. The plan was we will never reopen, but we didn't say that. We said it will be shut for this period, but the plan was never to reopen it. And then somehow it went viral. That notice we had put out ourselves went viral because people thought we were one of the hospitals that had been shut down by the government. A couple of other hospitals had been shut down by the government. I'm sure we all remember all the confusion and the chaos at that time. And so the son of this woman who was on admission, patient A, who was on admission in the hospital, reached out to me and said, why are you shutting your Ikeja branch down? He said, why don't you convert it to a treatment center for COVID where you can give drip and antibiotics and a bit of oxygen to help those you can help? And then he said the most important thing, which had become obvious to him within a week or 2 of his mother being with us. He said, I will help you. It was obvious to him we didn't have the finances to do it. So I said to him, yeah, that's such a brilliant idea. Yes, we have the courage, we have the will to do it, but yes, we'll need the help. But again, I also remember that a couple of human resource directors in the course of doing their business as the pandemic was coming had come to us to say, we hear you have a ventilator here. Will you be willing to ventilate our patients? And I said to them, yes, we'll be willing, but we already have 1 patient on ventilator now. So and we have just 1 ventilator. And one of them had offered and said to me, we can buy you more ventilators. I said, but we don't have space. We only have 2 beds. So in our minds, the only way we could manage was manage the COVID patients in the intensive care unit downstairs and not let them come upstairs to meet with their patients. So trying to protect staff, trying to protect other patients. So it didn't occur to us that we could have converted another branch into a COVID center on all manner of unforeseen events coming to mix the intention with the act. And so I said, okay, thank you. So I reached out to the human resource manager director who had spoken to me earlier. And I said, I remember you made an offer to buy us some equipment. Is that offer still open? Because now I have the space. And he said, oh yeah, we still have a budget for it. I said, great. And so we set up a WhatsApp chat group, and I put the original, the son of patient A, and then the HR director of this company. I also reached out to my constituency, the EMBA 11 members, to ask them to, and then added some members of that group who I knew were leaders in other big successful organizations. I added them to the group. And then we listed out equipment and things we will require. And donations of equipment and so on were made to Ikeja. And then my EMBA classmates made cash donations that we used to repurpose the structure of Ikeja, which we did, when it got up to a stage we couldn't. So anyway, the rest is history. I think you get the drift. And then we started the center. And so it was another big struggle getting to start the center. So the governments, yeah, private hospitals can, no, they can't, they need this, and no, it's that. And so there were lots of flip-flops. There was no clear direction. Nobody would blame anybody. This was a novel illness. Nobody quite understood it. So even government was just as confused as the rest of us. After all, government are just people like us who just happen to have the responsibility. And as we are all witnesses, Lagos State did an excellent job, but it wasn't easy also for Lagos State to come up with clear guidelines as to what to do. Indeed, it wasn't easy for anybody to come up with clear guidelines. So having told the story, and then after 2 months of a lot of struggle, regulatory changes and all that, I think on the 4th of June, we finally got a letter from Lagos State accrediting us and authorizing us to start treatment. By the 6th of June, our wards, our 14 beds were full, and they stayed full through the first pandemic, through the first wave. And suddenly, everything, our story changed. So I'll come back to where we are. So what is VUCA? VUCA was an acronym first used in 1987 by Warren Bennis and Bert Nanos to reflect on, one, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I'm sure for anybody who lived through the pandemic, including my 3-year-old granddaughter, she will tell you that 2020 typified VUCA. Everything was moving quickly, changing. Nothing was sure, not only about the illness, but also even about the entire world. There was so much ambiguity. You will say one thing today. I'll give you a clear example. The use of management of COVID. Sorry, this is a very technical example, and I hope there are some healthcare workers here. I remember at the very beginning, they said, don't use steroids because you will suppress immunity, and you can, the patient will have an overwhelming bacterial infection that will kill. But I thought to myself, the acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is what killed the most in COVID, is not new. The coronavirus is not the first virus to cause the ARDS. And we have traditionally treated ARDS with steroids, so why not this time? So I remember once we got an infectious disease specialist to come and talk to us about COVID, because we did a lot of training in preparation for the takeoff of the COVID treatment center. And then he said, of course, what was expected of him, which is you should not use steroids. Then I took him up and I said, doctor, if you got COVID, will you use a steroid or not? And he said he will use. I said, good, because if I got COVID, I will use too. Much later, the something trial came out, and then we all realized we should use dexamethasone. So I wonder how many patients died because we didn't use steroids at the beginning. Look at the ambiguity, complexity. Like when I used to give webinars on COVID, and I did quite a few of those, COVID was like the Rubik cube. As you turn this way, and all the greens appear to be aligning, suddenly 2 yellows and 1 red will appear. So as we are treating, so yes, as we are giving the steroid to treat the ARDS, suddenly the blood sugar is shooting up. And suddenly immunity is going down and the white cell count is going up. So I think COVID and 2020 personified, if you can call a year personifying, VUCA. It was an unknown infectious agent. There was media, mostly social media, but also even the traditional media. The information was constantly changing. 1 minute it is do this, and the next minute don't do that. Same thing. There was fear, pervading fear. You know, interestingly, at the beginning of the pandemic, both my parents have passed on, so I'm an orphan, poor me. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I kept dreaming of seeing my two parents. So I was convinced the pandemic was going to take me with it, but there was nothing I could do. I had to do what I had to do. I had to learn to overcome the fear of the fact that I will get COVID and I will die, because I was dreaming of my parents. And this was probably not peculiar to me. The fear was all pervasive. Never in my then 38 years, now 40 years of practicing medicine, had I seen politics and finance interfere so much with medicine. Never, okay? It was terrible. And that interplay, I must tell you, was, in my opinion, responsible for the number of people that died. If there had been less interference from politics and finance in medicine, medicine would have come up with a solution for COVID faster than we did. But because of big pharma and all that people stood to gain, things were not said as they should be said, guidelines were not issued as they should be issued, and well, we found ourselves where we were. Of course, the supply chain broke down. So where will you get the PPE? I remember the first time we tied up with the hazmat suits. I remember, you know, Mode, a pharmacist, going to some warehouses, I don't know where those warehouses were, to go and dig up what she could find. They were nowhere to be found. The ordinary gloves, the price of gloves were skyrocketing. As we all know, unfortunately, very little is manufactured here, so everything was being imported. I'm glad that masks now started getting manufactured in Nigeria. But at the time, even masks, we had to, so innovation came to play. We had to make cloth masks in Pelon because we're just running out of masks for the staff, you know. Then, like I talked about the regulatory flip-flop. So yeah, we are looking to partner with private hospitals in this fight against COVID. Please go ahead and apply. And then don't send me emails anymore, only send official emails. And then private hospitals are not allowed to, we're going to close Pelon down. I can't tell you how many times, you know, Pelon was going to be shut down for treating patients, nothing more than that. And then people lost trust in medicine. The other day I was talking on a webinar, and I was talking to some women about the COVID vaccine. This was more recently, not a webinar, actually a meeting, a face-to-face meeting. And I said to the women, but you people take your children for vaccination. And they looked at me like, no. I said, but don't you people do the vaccination? I remember BCGDP, they said, oh, immunization. I said, it's the same thing as vaccination. But you see, people saw COVID vaccine as different from all the vaccines they've received all their lives. We've all been receiving vaccines, even, you know, for as long as I can remember, the big smallpox vaccine and those gun-like things they used for us when we were children. Vaccinations are actually the most important public health intervention in the history of man, in my opinion, that have changed totally the course of healthcare. But people now started distrusting medicine. They say if you put a coin on your shoulder, it will magnet, all kinds of stories, unbelievable stories. Of course, driven very well by media. You know, some social media especially, sometimes I look at some articles and I realize that some mischievous person just sat down, wrote something up just for one single purpose, to cause fear and panic. No basis, no truth. And then before you know what, it's gone viral. Everybody is reading it and quoting it like gospel truth. People who knew nothing about healthcare, we're talking about vaccine trials. And of course, there was more death. Even me, I saw more death in those 2 years, or let me say 1.5 years, bunched together than I probably had seen in my entire 40 years of practice. So in a short period of time, I saw more people dying even under my care than I had seen, in the entire period of my practice. So death was a constant companion to us. The poor young people who worked, I hope some of them are on the webinar, who worked in the COVID center, because I didn't work in the COVID center. I was managing it from Victoria Island. So the poor young people who worked in the COVID center will go home one evening and come in the next day and see an empty bed. And Mr. So and so, who they were playing with the day before, had passed on. It was traumatic. Okay. So with the benefit of hindsight, so it is obvious from the stories I've told now that there was no big strategy of, gosh, what an opportunity. So let us do this like that and do this like the other one. And then suddenly success will come out. There was nothing like that. But I'm looking back now and I'm saying, what are some of the things that gave us the success? This is not in any order of hierarchy, just as they came to my mind. The first is that we did, by the nature of the way, just by a business principle. So the vision of the business was to redefine healthcare in Nigeria. And the reason was I had been not only a practitioner in healthcare, I had been a beneficiary of healthcare, not only in Nigeria, but also in other countries and in other continents. And I could think to myself, what was good about what they did there? What can we do better in Nigeria? Sadly, Patricia had 5 surgeries, only one in Nigeria. She died as a complication of the only one she did in Nigeria, although she died 8 years later. So the vision was redefine healthcare. Very ambitious, very big, but I know that little drops of water, will make the mighty ocean. Our mission was to provide safe, timely, evidence-based, patient-centered care to our patients. Then our integrity, motto was service with integrity. And finally, our value proposition, our promise to every patient is to get it right the first time, every time. As you must all know, everything was aspirational. We were aiming very high. Did we always meet up? No, but we continue to aim high. So ethics, we try to do things right. And it's in the DNA of our practice, not just for COVID, just the DNA of the way we practice in Pelon, which may be one of the reasons why we stayed unprofitable for so long, because doing things right is very expensive. So we try to do things right and doing the right things. Secondly, we persevered. We didn't give up. Giving up was not an option for us, not before COVID, not during COVID. It wasn't an option. What was I going to say to the people my friends and family who trusted me and brought money? I know most of them brought money that they thought they could walk away from. Just let us help Ngozi with this hard dream. But still, I wasn't going to go back to them to say, sorry, I'm tired, off I go. Okay, so we stayed the course. Okay, we were resilient. Like I said, I can't tell you how many battles we fought between April 6th, when we applied for the license to run a private COVID center, and June when we got it. I can't tell you how many times we were knocked down. Actually, I must be honest, at one point I wrote a letter to Lagos State government saying that I thanked them for considering us, but that now I realize we are not good enough to provide this service, and that therefore I want to withdraw my application and thank them for their time. I actually wrote the letter, and I'm sure I can find it on my computer. And Dr. Bodunri, she's no longer in Pelon, she's now in the UK, came to me and said, Dr. Onya, you will not send that letter. You will not send that letter. At that point, I was almost giving up. But the strong young team I had around me refused to give up. And I saw the energy in them and I continued. Leadership. So, Nehemiah, was a good leader. He said, let us rebuild the world, the wall of Jerusalem. I like to imagine there was exemplary leadership, and I tried to lead from the front. And then most important of all, integrity and trust. I had followers who trusted me with their lives. With their lives. They went because I said go, not knowing what will happen, but I said go, so they went. That didn't start in March of 2020. Obviously, over the years, they had learned to trust me. I must say that in April of 2020, and it wasn't for the first time, we paid half salary because we could not afford, we didn't generate enough income. And it wasn't the first time in the history of Payload where we paid half salary. Not one person resigned. I will discuss with them. So see, everything is transparent. Everybody can walk up to accounts and see what's going on there. I said, we don't have enough money to pay salaries, so we'll pay half salaries. And typically, we will start by paying the lowest paid. So those who earn a certain amount and below get paid their full salary. Their own salaries are never touched. And they get paid first. And then the next set will get paid next. I was always the last to get paid. And of course, I will also have my salary. And I'm glad a lot of Pelon staff are on this group. So if it's not true, they can type and say that's not true. And then, and even if they don't want to say to me, they can say to each other or to others. And then, that was in April. In May, we're able to pay 75% of our salaries because of the one patient who was in intensive care. Intensive care anywhere in the world is phenomenally expensive. The average cost of looking after an intensive care patient in the US is $100,000. The problem is that the difference, not a problem, is that in the US, they don't pay out of pocket. So recently I was at an event and I saw two patients who went through our intensive care, two of our more popular and famous patients who went through our intensive care and who survived. One paid out of pocket. And every time he sees me, he will remind me about how much he paid. That place is expensive. But I said to him, don't you thank God? You paid all that money and you survived. Some people paid and they didn't survive. Then the other gentleman just sees me and introduces me to the whole world as the person who saved his life because he had insurance. He didn't pay out of pocket. I don't think he knows what his care cost him. It was none of his business. It was his insurance's business to pay. So intensive care is very expensive. And so by the time we had the end of June, we were able to pay full salaries and even a little bonus. So we didn't pay back what we owed because when we pay half salary, we make it clear that we're not owing you. This is what we can afford because we have two options. We can pay some people fully and then let them go, or we keep everybody on and we struggle through. And always people will opt to say, pay everybody half salary, don't let anybody go. And so for all the members of my team who are listening to me now, thank you very much for trusting me with your lives. Teamwork. We did everything together. I remember when we were doing the Keja, when we were renovating, we will all just go and sit there with the workers. Oh yeah, do this one. Oh yeah, to ginger them all up. And the pandemic and getting ready for it threw up so many unexpected leaders. So it wasn't about titles, it was about the roles people played. People who hitherto were just one additional member of the team suddenly became people at the vanguard, the front, leading change boldly, you know. And these are people who were like-minded. So yes, we are a big team, and not everybody was on board. And I don't blame anybody. I don't hold it against them. Anybody who had reservations, people feared. I mean, the hospital that Dr. Adadevo worked for never really recovered from the Ebola pandemic. So other members of the team, very well intentioned and with good reason, were a bit they were a bit apprehensive about taking on this enemy that might destroy the reputation of the business. But a good number, we agreed with me and we worked together. And then Ecclesiastes chapter 4 says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. So you can imagine when we are even 5, when we are 8, we were definitely better than 1. We were definitely better than 1. And we were continuously learning. So a lot of things that came to the limelight. I remember in May of 2020, my then, I think 5 months, I'm sorry. My then 5-month-old granddaughter caught COVID because her nanny caught COVID from another nanny. And wow, I was losing my mind. This was in May. Don't forget, this was like 2 or 3 months into the pandemic in Nigeria. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't give her hydroxychloroquine because I didn't know about. But because we were constantly learning and constantly reading and constantly learning, I had come across an article about the use of ivermectin in Indonesia. I'm not sure if it was Indonesia, no. Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, the use of ivermectin. And I thought to myself, ivermectin is a mild drug. It's a drug we use in pediatrics to treat worms. So whatever it was, I don't know what else to do. Let me give my granddaughter ivermectin. I did. We did. And she got better. And we also know that COVID is a self-limiting illness and COVID will have gone anyway. At that time, the mother said to me, Mommy, as soon as I gave her the ivermectin, within a couple of hours, the fever broke. Was it coincidence? I don't know. Was it the effect of ivermectin? I don't know. But we're constantly learning, constantly learning. We had a good organizational culture even before the pandemic, which is why we will trust each other with each other's lives. Things were done transparently. So it was easy to rally the troops because we were a family. I must say that I studied the case study. I did a case study of Southwest Airline when I was in business school. And for everybody, I recommend that you look through the Harvard Business Review, the case study of Southwest Airline. It was one that was very impactful, in my opinion. And I vowed to myself that whenever I run an organization, I will borrow many of the principles of Southwest Airlines. Then, of course, relationships. The Bible says a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. There were so many people, those unforeseen events. Let me start with the doctor who called me to take this patient in. I will ask him one day if I was the first doctor he called or the only person he called. Yeah, he trusted me. That's why he called me. My friend, I don't know if he's listening, was churning out MOUs and contracts overnight. I just didn't realize I need an MOU for this. By morning, I'll wake up an MOU in my email box. My tight, there was a name I had for them. I've forgotten their names, but those ladies who are fighters that were with me, Unoma, Mode, Pacing, Dr. Bodunri, Matron, Erima. So there were some real powerful young ladies who were the wings beneath the wind beneath my wings. Okay. Then there was Saida. Saida was my neighbor. We used to walk together in the morning, and I used her always as I would bounce ideas off her, sounding board. She would listen to me and sometimes just give me words of encouragement, promise to pray for me. Interestingly, Saida is a Muslim, so we didn't pray together, but she would pray for me. And she would give me good words of encouragement. She would comfort me when I needed comfort through those difficult times. So I look forward so much to those my early morning walks with Saida when I could tell her overnight this happened. Dupe, my maid, was with me, and Dupe and I, she heard so much about COVID that she knew who was the good doctor, who was the bad doctor. The nurses, particularly Raphael, I don't know, I doubt if Raphael is listening now, but if he knows how he bailed me out when the intensive care physicians walked out on me with 2 patients on the ventilator. I mean, there are stories we can't talk about, but of course I didn't mention his name, but I will mention Sachin. whose mom I looked after, or Jubril of IHS Towers that came to support us. All goodwill. All these things made it all possible. Of course, courage. We needed courage to be able to face this unknown enemy. And I like to know that a lot of things, we're not very religious people in Pelon, and we're very fun-loving and party type people. But we know our God. We don't start any meeting in Pelon. At least I don't start any meeting without an opening prayer, short, to the point, not long, and a closing prayer. So God is a very big part of the Pelon spirit. And then, of course, the other day I was very pleased when an ex-board member came to the hospital to see a relative, and he came to my office and he said to me, Dr. Onya, I'm so impressed to see what you have done with Pelon, in the last two years. He said, I'm so happy you plowed back your revenues into upgrading, that you could have used the money for other things. And I'm sure we all know what other things usually will be in Nigeria. He says, but you plowed back to reposition your business. It's important that you do not eat your seed. You do not eat your seed. Because like I said to everyone, Pelon, and I'm very happy Moji Bade started by saying that a failing business. Pelon was never really properly resourced from the beginning. This pandemic gave us the opportunity to be finally properly resourced and then position ourselves as we always wanted to, but never had the privilege of doing. So where are we now? Where are we now? Of course, we knew that the earnings from the pandemic were not going to be sustainable, but like I said, it gave us the opportunity to reposition ourselves, particularly as it's become a lot more competitive in the landscape now. So look and feel, we've repositioned ourselves. In terms of the equipment and what we can do, we've repositioned ourselves. What we have always been very good with, and which is what the operating officer keeps referring to, the balance scorecard. What we've always had, and we still have, are great people. Great people. So the people of Pelon. I said to somebody once, I said, with all the money and all the equipment, but with the wrong people, you don't have a business. With the right people, no equipment, no money, you have a great business because the people will find a way. So yes, we still have the great people. So yes, the revenues are not what they were in 2020. They're also not what they were in 2019.
Sorry to cut you, ma. Okay, your audio, but we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. What they were in 2020 and 2021, but they're also not what they were in 2018 and 2019. So we are hopeful about the future. And again, I will go back to commitment. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then Providence moves too. Providence moved for us because we committed. Thank you all for listening to me.
Wow, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing very vulnerably with us. Thank you for, giving us practical tips, not just, again, textbook stories, but your own story, your own journey of bravery. I mean, so first we salute your bravery, we salute your confidence, we salute your dedication in the face of so many challenges. We also thank you especially for being very vulnerable. Not a lot of business owners will be able to come out and share such vulnerable stories with us, of failure, of success, and how everything just happened. So we thank you very much for that. Can we just, in the chat room, thank Dr. Ngozi for sharing so passionately and so, deeply into her story and the journey of turning a nearly failing business into one that became, we all know Pelon. I know Pelon, my friends use Pelon, and it's good stories. So we thank you. We really thank you for your dedication, your commitment, your passion, and especially your leadership, because I think, again, John C. Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So your leadership is also very important in holding the organization. We thank you. Thank you so much. Someone says they can't hear me. I just want to be sure. Can everyone hear me?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. I just wanted to be sure. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We will take a few questions. If you have any questions at all, I mean, that was very extensive, but we'll still take questions. If you have any questions, please drop in the comment section and we will pick from that. Again, we want to thank you, Dr. Ngozi, for being very vulnerable. I mean, it's really hard to find such authentic stories in this age and time, but you really shared, and we thank you again and again on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of PLLI. We are thanking you again and again. God bless you and long live Phelan Memorial Hospital. I will take a goodwill message and a message from one of our sponsors. We have a company that has sponsored us, and before we take the Q&A very quickly, we will listen to our sponsor. So this webinar, this is the fourth in this series and it's the last one in this series. We'll have other activities, but for this particular series, this is the final webinar, and this was sponsored by CMEX Ventures, and they're the official representative of top brands FMCGs from UK, USA, and Canada. They're also the sole distributors of Golden Spoon and Super County brands of foods and food products. Before I do all the reading, I'll just allow Chinyere from CMEX just speak to us very quickly in a few minutes about CMEX. But again, we thank CMEX for sponsoring this webinar. Over to you now, Chinyere.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Chinyere, and I'm representing CMEX Ventures Global Resources Limited. We are distributors and the representatives of food and food products that are from the UK, US, and Canada. For example, Kellogg's, like Kellogg's cornflakes, like Wesson canola oil. So basically supermarket items and toiletries. Then we are sole producers of Golden Spoon products, like maybe you have seen Golden Spoon sweet corn, Golden Spoon green peas, then Super County peanut butter. So we are located in the popular Balogu market, but basically the part of Ukari market. So we sell wholesale groceries and at wholesale prices. And we have packages for families that buy monthly. Then we supply to supermarkets, hospitals, restaurants, and hotels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chinyere. Thank you for speaking on behalf of CMEX Ventures. And thank you again for sponsoring this webinar. We sincerely appreciate you. So Dr. Ngozi, I have a few questions here for you, but again, I just want to thank you. And, in the chat room, people are still thanking you and just saying how well they've enjoyed this. But before I ask the questions, Dr. Ngozi, we reckon that not everyone on the call might have registered for this webinar. We would like to share a replay of this webinar because, again, these are, golden words that we got on a platter, very free platter. So we want to send the replay to everyone. So if you don't mind, if you didn't register, that's fine. You can just drop your name, your phone number, and your email address in the chat room, and someone will pick it up. Someone wants to make a comment and has 2 questions. Awesome, that's fine. We'll take that very quickly because, again, we recognize that the time constraint. But just in case you didn't register, just drop your name, your email, and your phone number so we can share the replay of this webinar so that you can listen again and again and just listen to, the words of wisdom and the experience that Dr. Ngozi has shared with us this evening. So Folashade, would you like to type your question and comment, or you would like to speak? If you'd like to speak, please unmute yourself and let's hear from you. Thank you very much. Over to you now, Folashade.
Thank you very much. I'd rather speak than put on the comments. Ngozi has done a good job. We were in the same College of Medicine. And when you go through University of Ibadan, the boldness that you are taught will forever remain with you. So because he's bold and can take anything on. And again, I don't know whether I missed out 2 other attributes. Discipline in all that you do will also take you far. And again, those who are dishonest cannot make it too far. I think I heard something about honesty, which is quite good. My 2 questions. 1, among your staff, did you have to lay off some who were not disciplined enough when you were doing the COVID intervention? And 2, was there anyone that decided to leave because the number of COVID patients that you were treating were just astronomical, as it were? Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much for your kind comment, ma'am. We appreciate you. I'll now allow Dr. Ngozi answer the question.
Thank you, Shade. Shade was and I were classmates, and we're on another Zoom later this evening, aren't we, Shade? Planning for our 40th year reunion. So the question about laying staff off, I don't remember that we laid anybody off because they were not disciplined. Nigerians are very hard workers, and I think the culture of the organization determines the kind of staff you have. So those who think a selection process throws up very good people, and we hardly ever have reason to lay people off. That's the truth. And people leaving because of falling ill, interestingly, for the first 2 years of the pandemic, the people who worked in the COVID center didn't fall ill. I think only 1 person fell ill with COVID. So there their guards were high. They had a very high index of suspicion. They were very careful with observing infection, prevention, and control measures. On the contrary, in VI, that was a non-COVID center, many people were falling ill because community spread was well established. We did not realize that, like, they're not the right COVID for face. So we initially thought every COVID patient will come in coughing and breathless. So patients come in and they're talking to the young ladies at the front desk without masks sometimes, or coming too close to them, or they don't have their mask on or whatever. And people were falling ill in VI. And of course, people were coming by public transport to work. They were catch in the community and so on. So no, we didn't lose patients staff because of the pandemic, not to death, praise God, and not to being sacked or resignation. So the people who left for diaspora, they jackpot, quite a few jackpot during the pandemic because the Western world threw their doors open.
They needed them.
Yeah.
Yes. Well done. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job. Well done. Yep.
Of course, I'm proud of you, my own professor of ophthalmology.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Folashade. I had addressed you very casually before. Zoom. I couldn't put a title to it, but
she's Professor.
Oh, wow. Professor. Wow. Such an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for opening the floor.
Thank you, Moji. You're doing a great job. You are going to a higher place. I know
Amen.
that. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you again for the kind words to our speaker. So I have some questions here that people had dropped earlier. And then, so the first one is, what are the symbols of a good and viable business decision? So how do you know that, you're making a good decision for your business and this is also a viable one for your business? Over to you, Dr. Ngozi.
I wish I had the answer to that. I think, yeah, I really do wish I had it. So often the end is what will tell you if that decision was good or not. But I think if you go through a proper process of analysis in your mind, either a SWOT analysis or dot analysis of business problems, these are techniques that I'm sure you'll be taught at the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute if you sign up for School of Enterprise Development, how to use these simple methodologies, the SWOT analysis, the analysis of business problems and so on. And you're also doing the right thing, and you're being true to yourself. The end is what will tell you. So the story looks so nice and rosy. There were many failures. But a failure is just a learning, a way to know what not to do. You just learned one way not to go about things. Nothing to regret. Some of those failures will be quite expensive, but yeah, you just learn how to do it better next time. I don't think anybody can give a true answer to that. It's time that tells you like the situation. Because just as quickly as we decided to treat COVID, we could have ended up having our hospital shut down because we treated COVID. Right. I could have died of COVID, and then if you cut off the head, then what's left? Or people could have avoided our hospital and said, that's a COVID hospital. And to be honest, quite a few people still think we're a COVID hospital now. And say, oh, we didn't know you do anything else. We only thought we did COVID. We were there for 8 years before the pandemic. No, not 8, 10 years before the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. So I have another question. We'll take just a few more. Someone is asking, how does one raise the capital for investment in these uncertain times with a double-digit interest and a lot of hidden charges?
That's a $1 million question. But if you're talking about business in healthcare, then this is a good time for healthcare, because what has happened is that the pandemic has suddenly turned attention to the gap in healthcare in Nigeria, and there are many people willing to invest in healthcare. But raising capital is the most difficult thing in Nigeria. So there are two ways. You can do debt at a double digit, or you can do equity. For me, at my age, equity was easier. So yes, the business that I started 100% with my children, now I own probably less than 20%. That's what people don't realize, that Pelon doesn't belong to me. So people gave me, friends and family gave me money. They bought equity into the business. And so that's how I raised money. But I'll tell you one model that worked very well for me. So in 2017, when we were moving from Musa Yar'Adua to Ahmadu Bello, we came to a point where going forward was with great difficulty and going backwards was not possible. We had committed a lot of resources, but we didn't have enough to go forward. We tried to do a fundraise. Yeah, being an entrepreneur is hard. I remember going to the office of somebody who had given me an appointment to come to the office like 2 weeks before. I sent a reminder. As I was driving in, the person drove out. I was waiting in the waiting room. The wife, the second leg of the partnership, was watching me on CCTV, just watching for me to get tired. And a member of my family who worked for the company saw all this going on and came down. Was actually my son. He came to me and said, "Mommy, leave. They will not see you today. They're just waiting for you to leave." And I left. That was an attempt to raise capital. I can tell you so many stories like that. And so I couldn't. But my father passed on and willed a house to me, but it was in Delta State. So it wasn't a big house in Ikoyi that I could sell and raise all the cash I needed. So I sold it for whatever it was worth. And I was going to invest it in the business. But a good advisor said to me, "You've invested too much in Pelon already and you've not gotten anything out of it." He says, "Let us do credit notes for you." And I recommend that method to everybody. He said, "We will issue credit notes." He said, "So give this money to Pelon as a loan, giving interest a little bit above treasury bills. The tenure was, I think, 4 years or 3 years, I don't remember, to repay the principal. But every quarter we were repaying the interest. We're making interest payments. And I reached out again to friends and family, and this time even patients, people I got to know in the hospital. And because it was a loan, people gave what they could afford again to lose. I'm glad to say we've paid everybody up. But we kept up with the interest payments. We kept up from 2018 till 2020 with the interest payment. And as soon as we made some profits in 2020, we quickly paid everybody off. So that's, I think, it's probably the best way I would recommend. It will still be friends and family, people who trust you, and people who can give you lenient payment terms and not asking for collateral and things like that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ma. Like you keep sharing, personal stories that are relatable and people can, use as examples for their own business. So the final question, which I think you've answered the first part, in this previous question is someone is asking, what is your advice for a young person working 9 to 5, trying hard to start a business and is met by constraints of time and finances? So why I say you have answered a bit of the finances is how to raise funds and, you know, goodwill, family and friends, debt and equity. But someone is asking, you know, again, how to, you know, finance constraints.
Okay, I must say that I started my business in 2010. I was 50 years old.
Wow.
My children were grown and graduated. They had left school. It depends. If you are single, no responsibility, then venture. Venture, that's the truth. Take a chance. If you are single, no responsibility. But if you have responsibilities, you have children's fees to pay and all that comes with, I don't know, of course, your gender, but I don't think gender counts so much anymore, because the truth is women contribute almost as much as the men, if not more sometimes. Then you may have to defer your dreams, remembering that it's never too late. I started at 50, as everybody likes to remind us, the gentleman who started, I think was Kentucky Fried Chicken, started at 65.
Mm.
One needs to be realistic. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ma'am. We have taken a lot of your time, but someone just dropped a question, and this will be the final question before we wrap this all up today. So Laura Williams in the chat room is asking, in these trying times when almost everything doesn't add up and it's really difficult to draw the line between making profit, running at a loss, and not making anything at all for a product-based business, how do we survive without doing double standard measures?
I think it would be to find capital, working capital. The truth is, there's no prescribed duration or period within which a business will become profitable. Sometimes you just have to stay with it. Not sometimes, every time you have to stay with it. If I had given up after 5 years, I would have been, Pelon will have been listed as one of those startups that failed. Nobody knows how long it takes for a business to break even and become profitable. No matter, don't forget the theory of whatever you calculate, particularly in this VUCA environment, it's very difficult. So the thing is, stay the course. From time to time, you will do capital raise. You will do capital raise for working capital, as long as you have enough working capital to keep going one day. And as long as you are creating value, that's very important. You must be creating value. Don't forget, you're selling to people people don't buy what you have made. People buy what they need. So you need to be sure that the product you're producing is not something you think is nice and should be in the market. It's what people want to buy. As long as you're doing that and you're doing it as cost efficiently as possible. And then as the founder, you must also be ready to make some sacrifices.
Right.
Things, your life will change. I was business class flying and so on, senior manager of Nigerian breweries. When I came out of Nigerian breweries, I reminded myself that all those days are over. Now it's boss. I used to enter, what do they call it? A Degbe line and Delta line to go and visit my father in Asaba while he was alive and widowed. Those are the realities of starting a business. Those are the realities of a business.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. So this is a comment, right?
May I request Professor Ihanyi Okpala, who is also one of my classmates, another professor. I have very distinguished classmates who are on this webinar. Had raised his hand before, but I don't know. He seems to have put it down. Ihanyi, do you still want to?
No, I haven't put it. I haven't put it down. Actually, I saw we have time constraints, and I tried to type in my main suggestion. First, this is excellent. Second, it is paradoxical that you started a business which literally is for profit. But in fact, it is obvious that money making was not the primary objective of this whole thing. It comes true. And this is the paradox I'm talking about. You are running a business, but indeed, the motive is not to make profit. It is to serve society according to your own convictions and look at the way success has followed your effort. I say this because many a time people might not think that is the way to go. But in all honesty, whenever and if ever you are out there to do good and serve God by serving his own children, this is the usual result. I will recommend, if it is possible, that a group of graduating doctors have the opportunity of hearing what is essentially your 40-year experience packaged into 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes of some talk, lecture in a graduating ceremony. Because you see, this is the way that people can benefit from what you have labored to learn. I know there are many medical schools around, but I deliberately made that suggestion to the general audience. They will learn a lot from you. The key success factors. It's impressive how you have combined so many things to achieve this purpose. Congratulations, and don't stop the good work. Keep going, please.
Thank you. Hi.
Congratulations once more.
Again, Mojibai,
Thank
another
you.
professor from my class.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Professor Ihayi Opala. You know, it just says a lot when your people, your community come together to actually be a part of what you're doing and have, you know, spoken so well of you and have spoken, you know, very highly of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi. We thank you for being here. And someone is saying here in the chat room that I would like to add that Ngozi, well, Dr. Ngozi is a total Nigerian who believes in the country enough to open up by appointing me a member of the payload board. She will surely go a long way. She's a true nationalist, an excellent product of Queen's College. Thank you. People are requesting that this talk be put in a podcast. Wow. You know, it just shows us that today has been truly insightful. You know, I said at the beginning that it will be worth your time. And even for me, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I run my own business on the side, but this has been truly, truly impactful and insightful for me. Okay, so we had that is from Rabia. Again, I don't know your title, and I'm sorry if I come across as being, you know, I just have Rabia here. This just says Rabia, but thank you so much for your kind comment. Today has been a good day. This evening has been fantastic. It has been insightful. It has been a great time of learning from Dr. Ngozi's.
May I say that Rabia was my classmate in medical school? I mean, in Queen's College. In Queen's College. And she's the principal of one of the biggest schools. Not the principal. She's the founder of one of the biggest schools in Northern Nigeria.
Wow.
Queen's College. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate that you're here to, you know, add some colors and flavor to this great webinar. And Dr. Ngozi, thank you so much. This has been truly, truly impactful, insightful, and it has been a great session. But, you know, everything that is good and has a beginning must come to an end at some point. So because of time again, and we understand that you have other engagements, I'll now invite the director at PLLI to just give us closing remarks and end this properly. So I'll hand over to Mr. Peter Eze. Over to you now, Mr. Peter. Thank you, Professor Dr. Funke Agbo, for your comments. I mean, the chat room is buzzing and I love the energy. I love the energy here. It just says a lot about our speaker.
Funke Agbo was my Queen's College classmate and she's a senior advocate.
Oh, wow.
She's a senior advocate.
Wow. 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 Such an honor. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Such an honor to have you here, ma'am. Thank you. All right, over to you now, Mr. Peter.
Yeah, you know, listening to your story is very, I can say it's addictive. I've had a first-hand experience of sitting down and just listening to Dr. Ngozi Onya's story. And honestly, it is stories like this that the Pistis Life and Leadership Institute have curated. I mean, you need to hear the full version of Dr. Onya's story. It's one of the stories that will be told in her session through the course of the Spark course that will be running over 10 Saturdays. She has a story that is real, that it's African. The good thing about her story is it's relatable. She's making references, she's calling names. You know, sometimes you feel almost subtly embarrassed on behalf of her, because she is not ashamed of mentioning where she nearly flunked it. She's not ashamed. She tells the story the way it happened. She doesn't filter it to tell you the good side. She tells you where she was confused. You know, for me, one of the things that hits me listening to our story, not today, I mean, we've had our story, we've curated our story, we've compiled our story, we've pre-recorded our story. It's part of the case studies that students who register for this STEM Saturday course would go through and analyze, right? What hit me was just the mere fact that, you know, she's real to the fault, and she's not ashamed to say, I was confused, I didn't know what to do. You know, when you see people who are succeeding, there's a way, it has a way of, we play it like we always had it, we knew everything. She's very real, you know, that story, that COVID experience and everything. Thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi. Thanks for always being there for us. She's one of our, you know, pioneer faculty at the School of Enterprise Development. And like I said earlier, for the benefit of those of us who were not there at the beginning, Peace Life and Leadership Institute, PLLI, will be running a 10-Saturday course, 10 weeks of developing, helping startup entrepreneurs or existing businesses learn how to, the practical steps to building a sustainable business, building structures around businesses, you know, things that will make this organization last longer. You know, part of the things that we have put into building this thing is, you know, this community learning approach where you have more than one faculty take a course. Just in case you are not able to get it from one, you can get it from the other. We have an internship program that is part of this to send people to industries, organizations, real organizations, where they can open their books, their doors, and show you how these things are being applied. All right. And the course is going to be a blended course, meaning that if you are not going to be in Lagos State, it's starting 24th of September, right, through to 25th of November, every Saturday. Maybe you are not going to be in town, you can actually register and take part online. It's going to be a live online class. So whilst the class is there, the sessions are going on physically, we have screens in the class that will project the people who are connected from remote end. So it's going to be a very lovely experience. And at the end of the day, we are going to have an active alumni, one of which, the goal of one of which is to ensure peer success, right? So we have, like I said, through our class, blended learning, case studies, internship books, book assignments. You'll be giving books to read. We are going to do an analysis of lessons from certain select business school books. And apart from Dr. Onya, we have Dr. Femi Johnson. He's going to be a faculty. We have Dr. Biodo Adedikbe, who is also a faculty on this PLLI School of Enterprise Development. We have Mrs. Toyin Sonny. We have Mrs. Bisi Adeyemi. We have Mr. Tayo Odusi. He is a player in the real estate sector. By the way, Mrs. Toyin Sonny is one highly reputable investment banker who has gone on to run a very successful organization. Mrs. Bisa Adeyemi, a consultant, runs a consulting firm, one of the best in Lagos State, to the best of my knowledge. We have Folusho Badamosi, an IT professional. We have Debo Omotunde, who is a product design expert and also a co-pastor with the Elevation Church. We have the founder of PLLI in person of Pastor Godman Akinlabi. He is going to be speaking as the founder, and also what it takes to build and run a big religious body like the Elevation Church is something most business people need to learn, the back end of it. We have Juliet Inyan, who is a top HR professional, Babajide Muniz, who is a digital expert, and Henry Bassi, who is a brand expert and PR expert. So I'm using this opportunity to invite you. 1st of September, the portal will be open, plli.org, for registration and sign up. We have done everything to make this course reachable, easily, affordable to most people. And all the details will be coming to you. If you register for this course, we will be sending you details of the program. Thank you so much. And remain blessed. Thank you very much, Moji, for that fantastic compare. I think at this point, we can draw the class to a close. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has stayed up until this point. We appreciate your time. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us at PLLI. Do have a lovely week and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And remember to drop your name, phone number, and email address just in case you didn't register and you want to receive this recording. We would like to share it because we want you to listen over and again. Thank you so much again to our speaker, Dr. Ngozi Onya. Thank you so much to everyone from Palin Memorial Hospital who joined and was rooting for her in the comment section, all her friends, family members, and associates who are here as well. And to every single person who has joined, we hope that you learned something and that this was truly insightful for you. Have a lovely rest of your day. God bless you. Bye.
Aladdin City. This project consists of 3 lamp-like towers, each around 30 stories in height. This complex includes office space, hotels, and the building is connected with snake-like bridges with air conditioning and moving floors. Number 2. Museum of the Future. The 9-story building is shaped like an eye that represents our vision of the future, with an auditorium, food and beverage deck, and 6 exhibition floors showing anything from climate change innovation, smart city inventions, and AI. It may sound like an oxymoron, but the Museum of the Future is a thing of the present. Number 3. Burj Khalifa. 828 meters tall and with 163 floors, it's the world's tallest skyscraper. It also has the elevator with the longest travel distance, the most floors, the highest outdoor observation deck, and the highest occupied floor. Number 4. The Hyperloop. Dubai proposes to construct a high-speed train link under the Arabic Sea to Mumbai, a total difference of 1,862 kilometers away. The train will cover this distance in 2 hours. That's approximately 580 miles an hour. The trains will travel in tunnels just under the surface of the sea, suspended from a network of floating rigs. So now we can get seasick on a train. Number 5. Burj Al Arab. The world's first 7-star hotel, this sail-like building sits on its own man-made island. It has 202 rooms, ranging in price from $2,000 to $24,000 a night. Number 6. Dynamic Tower. 420 meters tall with 80 stories, all formed around a central column which allows each floor to rotate independently of the others. Occupants will be able to choose the speed and direction of rotation, and an entire 360-degree rotation will take 90 minutes. Don't like the view from your hotel room? Change it! Number 7. Dubai Creek Tower. Currently under construction, the Dubai Creek Tower's estimated height is 1,300 meters. The building will include 10 viewing platforms, some of which will rotate, offices, residences, restaurants, and sky gardens inspired by the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Number 8. Man-made islands. Whether it's the palm trees, the world map, or the newly built Seahorse Island, maybe one of the most iconic things in Dubai are its man-made islands.